Aloha and welcome to another episode where we're going to be talking about the different aspects of the apocalypse. Last time I did a feature that really focused on zombies and the dead coming back to life. So this time we're going to actually focus on the mud floods. You'll have to excuse my audio. I don't know if you can hear that. Oh boy, I messed. Hold on. I hear myself in the background. That's my fault. Oh, damn it. Hold on, my bad. Jesus. Okay, so sorry about that. All right, so if you're in the chat right now, let's kick things off the right way. I would like to show my appreciation and give out 5 free channel memberships to the early birds. People that got here first, I'm going to go ahead and throw those into the chat right now. Congratulations to whoever gets it. I'm sure it's going to pop up right here next to me on screen. And I'm going to share with you my theory on the mud floods. I'm not just going to, talk about how things look like they were covered in mud. I'm convinced that they were covered in mud, right? And I'm not going to show a lot of, examples and evidence and stuff. I made this picture right here, as a thumbnail using an AI generator and stuff. So I don't really want to give a lot of examples and pictures and stuff. What I would like to do is get right to the point and share with you my theory and what this has to do with the plasma apocalypse. So let me just double check the chat, make sure everybody can hear me okay. It does look like everyone can hear me. Thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me okay. And we're going to jump into discussion. I also have the ability to put your comments onto the chat. So for example, Gavin Carter says, I appreciate your knowledge at JayDreamerZ, which also highlights the comment when you type in at JayDreamerZ. Good to see everybody in the chat. Let me go ahead and double check here. Looks good. Oh, we got CJDV was like number 26. Eddie Knows says to smash the like. Thank you guys all very much for all the thumbs ups. And thank you for letting me know about the sound and the audio coming through. All right, cool. So let's jump into the mud floods. Okay. So the theory basically states that ample evidence has been found in various forms, from archaeology to old photographs, and whatnot, that there is a huge layer, tens and tens of feet, right? Sometimes 50 feet, sometimes 60 feet, sometimes more, of just mud that has dried over time. So it's become soil and, dry mud or whatever. But that there's mud, and within that mud, people are excavating entire temples and cities and towns, and the buildings, oftentimes when you look back at old photographs, they look like they're built at weird angles, and that, like the windows are way down where the ground is. Sometimes the ground comes all the way up, halfway up a window. And it's not sometimes, it's quite often actually when you look at old photographs. So the theory is that there were these floods that happened the world across, and that these floods were mostly mud. They were a muddy flood. At least this is how people imagine it. When you talk about the mud floods, people imagine that there was some rush of mud and water and debris that rushed into a town or to an area. This is something that academics quite often talks about and discusses. They talk about this, like dinosaur bones and fossils. They'll say that they were covered in mud, that there was mud landslides or whatever. That accounts for the fossilization and whatnot. But it's not that it was a landslide of mud only. There will be, and the things that we're discussing that have happened in the ancient past, which I call ancient Oblivion, will also happen in our future. So this is why it's important for us to look into these things, or why they could be of value for us to study and to learn about. We can learn to prepare for them. We can learn the truth of the world that we live in and realize what's being hidden from us, what we have hidden from ourselves, and what we have simply forgotten about collectively. Wow, there's a lot of memberships being given out in the chat. Hold on, it looks like Thorder D gave out 5 JayDreamerZ memberships, bought 5 memberships for everybody. Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. High five to everybody who got them. So, it's not always a flood. Not all these towns live right next to, at the bottom of a mountain or a hill or whatever that could have caused a flood. So what is it? Let me tell you exactly what I believe it is. I believe that this is a worldwide phenomenon, that this happens all across the place. The extent to how powerful these mud floods are or how extensive they are will depend upon the terrain and the area and other factors as well. What causes them? So this is a part of the plasma apocalypse. I believe that we live in an enclosed system, right? In the ancient world, they depicted that enclosed system as being physically enclosed by a dome, by a barrier. Now, that's my worldview. You can keep yours if you have a different one. It's totally fine. Incorporate whatever resonates with you, okay? Either way, even academics says we live in a closed system. That being the case, pressure builds up within the walls of this closed system that we live in. The gases are constantly being created up here on the surface throughout the life process. Gases are constantly being added to the pressure that's building up within our atmosphere from the ocean itself. And gases are now being released more than ever up from the earth. The earth goes through cycles where it starts to burp out and release massive amounts of gases that touch our lives. And we see the effects of those gases. Sometimes they come in the form of a dancing plague where all the people they have the jitterbug. Sometimes it comes in the form of a laughing plague when everyone just can't stop laughing and they don't know why. Sometimes it makes people numb. Sometimes those gases ionize and ghosts are seen in the area. Oftentimes the massive amount of gases that are being released are moving about the earth on the inside, and it causes earthquakes. Those gases go up into the atmosphere, they ionize, and they become earthquake lights, precursors to the earthquakes or afterthoughts, basically. Susan Donahue, what's up, Susan Donahue? Good to see you in the chat. Been a member for a while now. Good to see you. Where's Susan Donahue? There she is. Welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. Good to see you. All right, cool. So that's the general gist of it, okay? Ample evidence has been found that that ancient structures, oftentimes those from the epic, the era that is now being labeled and titled in different ways and forms, Tartaria, the Tartarian mud floods, okay? A lot of that has to do with the building structure and styles of the time, kind of Gothic, but keep in mind, this is something that happens periodically. The mud floods, it's not like many people, when they think about apocalyptic events or the Book of Revelation or, any type of cataclysm, oftentimes they like to think of it as if it's something that can only happen once. The world across, being in turmoil, being, undergoing cataclysm, they imagine that it's only going to happen once, in the future, or that it already happened a long time ago and it's over with and it's done with. We'll never experience that again. But you will. We will experience these things again because they're cyclical in nature. So here's what happens. Okay, here's where all of this mud comes from. And this is my theory. If you'd like more information, feel free to check out my website and my books, the Ancient Oblivion series, which I sell here on YouTube on my merch shelf and on my website as well. But in essence, all that pressure builds up within the closed system that we live in, right? All these gases start being released, and finally there'll be a pressure release. This pressure release comes when the sky breaks open. A hole will appear in our actual sky. It will be a black hole to some. It'll reveal the quote-unquote wormhole or plasma conduits that go from the opening up there in the sky or the heaven's gate often to other worlds and realms. That's a plasma conduit. It's an Einstein-Rosen bridge. It's a wormhole, etc., and so on and so forth, right? Anyway, the point is, when we hit the neutral point, all the magnetism that is pushing in all of those diamagnetic gases, which means that they're repelled, they're pushed away by a strong magnetic force. That dome of electromagnetism disappears, and essentially the invisible spiritual hands that are holding in the world's pressure, the atmospheric pressure of this world, they let go. And then all of those gases rush up to the apex, or specifically to the apex dome that is at the top of the firmament. And they burst out. They punch a hole right through all of the ice, which is the ice wall, which is the highest, hardest glass ceiling, which is the dome of our world. Jim Donovan, what's up? Hey, good to see you in the chat. Thank you so much for the little super sticker and the donation. That's super awesome. Thank you. So anyways, all these gases, let me take that down so I could focus, okay? All these gases build up, and they build up. The pressure will be released after the magnetic neutral point, okay? Now, when this happens, it's not just the surface that is depressurizing, it's the inner earth as well. They're depressurizing at the same time. So it's not just all the pressure on the top, but all the pressure inside as well. All that pressure and all that gas rushes up throughout every single cavernous entrance that goes down deep enough. Sometimes new caverns will be created. New cracks will rip open in the earth as all of these gases rush through the earth and rush through the world. This creates worldwide earthquakes that are off the charts, earthquakes that rearrange the walls of the labyrinth of the world that we live in. And the entire surface, all of it, everywhere, nothing is untouched from earthquakes and the earth shaking. The whole surface shakes back and forth in different ways too. It vibrates, but it's also moving and shaking and shuddering back and forth all over the place. And if you have studied the world's oceans, you've probably come across many different articles that talk about how there is actually more water under the surface than there is the oceans on top of the surface. What happens during all this shaking is it causes what's known as liquefaction. Liquefaction is whenever you shake the land or vibrate the land and the water starts to rise up through all of the mud and dirt and debris. All the mud and dirt and debris, they start sinking down and it mixes together and it creates mud. Quite simply, it makes mud. The land itself becomes a swampy, muddy, wet place. Now, whenever you stop all that shaking after the apocalypse, there'll be a time whenever the earth settles and it calms down. Okay? Keep in mind, many other things have happened and are going on at the same time. We're only focusing specifically on the mud aspect, on the sinking of these buildings, on the burying and the sinking of Atlantis, the burying of the old world, the burying of, yesteryear or whatever. That's what we're really focusing on. Keep in mind, there's increased buoyancy, things float around, monsters from within the hollow recesses of our world come up. There's all kinds of crazy things happening. The dead are coming back to life. There's the time of no death where people cannot die. There's lots of things that are happening. This is why I wrote a book about it, because there's a lot of different dominoes. There's a lot of implications to the order of these events and the other things that they touch on, okay? So anyways, the world is starting to shake. Okay, what this means is whenever liquefaction happens and the surface becomes really swampy and really muddy, those heavy objects like temples and stone pillars and buildings, they will start to sink down into the mud. They just start sinking just like Artex in the Swamp of Sadness, straight down. They just start sinking right into the mud. It becomes like quicksand. Now, all these gases are being released at the same time. Many of them are going to ionize and combust. You also combine that with, gigantism that's introduced into this world because of the depressurization and the increased oxygen and other things. And we have fiction come to life, right? You've seen The Princess Bride. We've talked about that many times too. And there's a swamp that they go into that has gases that spurred up into fiery flames. There's rodents of unusual size. There's quicksand. All over the place. And that's basically what things will turn into, is forms of quicksand. Also, it's going to create a lot of clay, a lot of building material that can be shaped and reformed into gigantic megaliths and rocks and structures. And the density of objects will be much less than 2, because you have the depressurization of the atmosphere makes the world inside less dense. Okay, so the more pressure you have, the more dense objects tend to be within that atmosphere, that pressurized atmosphere. When you release that pressure, the less dense they become. So all of these clay and things like that, over time, when the pressure builds and builds and builds over hundreds of years or thousands of years, whatever clay structures that are carved and shaped and created and put together so close that, you can't even pass a razor between the 2 blocks or whatever, those clay blocks that weigh a lot less because of the depressurization, they harden and they become rock and they become stone over time. So what happens is the old world sinks. The earth hides our own history from us, okay? Humans do too, Okay, there are those, I believe there are those survivors who are in the know, and they understand these events and they understand what happens, but it's the Earth that is doing it. We also forget. There's also worldwide amnesia that happens. There's all kinds of events that lead up to the plasma apocalypse. Worldwide psychosis is something we discussed, in the past few episodes, plasma possession and things of that nature. But you have a swampy, muddy mess during and immediately after the apocalypse. Okay, this is shown to us on many movies. I do truth in movies all the time. They show you worlds that are all swampy and whatnot, or the junkyard worlds. That's the aftermath, where all those things that floated up into the atmosphere that didn't make it out, they float back down into huge piles of trash and junk and debris. And so people find these leftover places, these leftover settlements and leftover cities and temples and structures. And these are survivors. So they make do. They recreate it. They dig these places out and they repurpose them and they reuse them. Not just the dwellings, not just the architecture, but all of this ancient old world technology that survived. They try to reverse engineer technology that clearly has been lost after apocalyptic events. They go digging. They go digging into the earth to try to find clues and artifacts and things that could be of value to them in the post-apocalyptic world, right? So they go digging up all of these things, and I mean they dig up entire temples, entire buildings. It's no secret that places like Venice are currently sinking straight down into the ground. And then they build on top of the lower levels of these houses quite often, and that becomes the new first level of the houses. A lot of old world houses, they have like stairs going all the way up to the first floor for some reason, right? A lot of old world technology and old world antiquitech and architecture, where you can see all of these old structures that are magnificently made, wondrously made quite often, that today's architecture can't even hold a candle to. These structures last for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's like people design them with the knowledge of, they need to be strong for when the apocalypse comes, it seems to me. Anyways, a lot of these structures were very Gothic in their Gothic style during certain mud flood events. And that architecture tells us around what time this had happened. Some structures, like, during the 1800s, you have more like wooden houses and structures and stuff like that, but Capitol buildings and whatnot would have domes. In the old world, domed buildings would be inlaid with conductive material. So that's why oftentimes, especially in Capitol buildings, you'll see brass domes, copper domes, golden domes, and whatnot. Domes attract magnets. I mean, not magnets, electromagnetism. The domes attract electricity from the atmosphere. When the world gets shaken like this, you will also immediately after this happens, you will find records of the atmosphere being electrically charged. For example, this is a picture that I made purposefully to look like the early 1800s or the mid 1800s. Immediately after those times, we have things like the Carrington event, the Tunguska event. Going back further in time, whenever we read the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, they talk about how the sky itself was inlaid with wondrous flying serpents and glowing snakes and dragons and things like that. This is plasma floating through the air in self-contained plasmoids or ball lightning, in sprites, which are like lightning that goes up and down in the upper atmosphere. But those sprites are not transient luminous events like they are today. They're not real quick. Today they're just a flash. But in an atmosphere that is depressurized and filled with vapor, that's another thing too. You have a lot of fog during these times too. Okay, you'll see a lot of fog starting to creep up. That's because the atmosphere depressurizes. When you mess with the world's pressure, then oftentimes, fog is a result of that, especially in the pressure differentials between the inner Earth and the surface world where we live. So, hold on one sec. Oh, that's fine. Well, we could just block you, Mikey B. Let's see, for POW. There you go. You're gone. You don't have to announce that you're leaving. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, I find this to be super interesting and relevant and valuable. And this is all just my perspective and opinion, okay? There are no experts on the subject, so to speak. We're all independent researchers. If it's not your cup of tea, just be mature, you know, be a grown-up and just see yourself out. It's totally fine with me. There's some heckler in the chat. That's all I'm saying. But my moderator's totally on top of it. But I was curious and I wanted to see what he said anyways. Anyway, so mud floods. I would like to ask if the chat has any questions. I'm going to put your questions up on the screen. So for example, let's question that. Says, thank you, Good Vibe Tribe, for the subscription. I love your different perspectives, JayDreamerZ. I've been listening to you for months now. All right, sweet. Thank you so much. It's good to have you. If you have any questions about how the mud floods happen or the plasma apocalypse or its role or whatever, feel free to put those into the chat and, you know, we'll continue talking about it or whatnot. But I want to give everyone a chance to sort of respond to, you know, to the idea of the mud floods being real. Okay. Now this also gets into, like, for example, the melted building, or some people call it meltology. I like that name. I like meltology. I don't really believe in meltology that much, or, you know, like all these old world structures that are melted or vitrified or whatnot. I tend to see the opposite as happening. For example, in this world that is so muddy, right? If you have a strong electrical charge in the form of like cosmic bolts of lightning hovering just above this city that has gone through liquefaction, the mountains have melted because of the shaking, okay? Melted doesn't always have to mean extreme heat, you know, burned it so much that it melted. Melted can just mean to dissipate or to fall apart. And so when you have the shaking of the entire world, all these mountains that we have in today's world are going to be laid low. They're going to be shaken down. They're going to melt down and spread out, basically. Anyways, when you combine that with like a liquidy surface or a muddy surface, and you have a strong electrical charge hovering just above those places, then oftentimes it's very possible for the mud to actually lift up out off of the ground, like floating up into the heavens. Now, also keep in mind, like I said, in this scenario, there would be increased buoyancy, so it would be much easier for the mud to lift up. This is the exact same thing as rubbing a balloon on your hair and then lifting the balloon up. That static electricity lifts the hair up because it's attracted to it. It's such a strong charge. Same exact principle applies to our land and to our world. Now, whenever these columns and pillars of mud and rock and clay and stuff lift up out of the ground and they meet that thunderbolt of the gods, it densifies it, it petrifies it, and it makes it solid, and it freezes it in place. So this muddy, dripping, melted looking structure becomes petrified. It's actually the opposite from my perspective. There's always anomalies and exceptions to that as well, okay? But it petrifies it. And if you look at these structures, like for example, the Devil's Tower, right? These, oftentimes they're flat on top. Many of the world's mesas and buttes and things like that. Even the archways. This can account for the archways, like in Utah. You ever see like rock arches? You know what I mean? That's just electrical arching on the surface. And then the mud, you know, moves about, and then it gets charged by that that strong thunderbolt of the gods, and it petrifies it in place, freezing it in time, basically. But those towers are denser on the top, and they become less dense and less dense as they go. When in reality, if academics is correct, they should be more dense the further down you go, right? But they're quite often not, and I've examined them myself. I actually have a video or two here on my channel of me, you know, boots on the ground out there examining these structures that just rise right up out of the ground. All right, let me jump back into the chat. I did see some people trying to get my attention. Let's see, we got Eddie Knows. What's up, Eddie? Says, JayDreamerZ, how long did you estimate the previous mud flood occurred? It seems to me, like I said, these are cyclical events. Some are huge apocalyptic world-changing events. Almost every time it seems to me that they correlate with magnetic reversals. Okay, so electromagnetic reversals. And it seems to me likely that the last candidate is from, I don't know, somewhere around the late 1700s to mid 1800s, somewhere in that area. That's to me the last one, the most recent one that occurred. The one after that, it seems to me like there was a very large polarity shift during the Dark Ages, right? And then immediately after the Dark Ages, which were actually the Ages of Light, that's whenever, you know, all kinds of stuff started happening, like the orphan trains and insane asylums and all this stuff. Let's see. Hold on. Realize is in the chat and says, JayDreamerZ, we're the survivors of mud floods, other than the ones who ended up ruling after the recovery. Oh, who are the survivors of the mud floods? I don't know. They're just survivors. I'm not sure what you mean by who. Oh, but I will get back. This reminds me of the Tartarian thing too. Okay, so Tartaria is deeply rooted in the concept of these mud floods. If you go back and watch some of my videos, specifically the big Tartaria one, it's like a huge thumbnail that says Tartaria on it. I make the case that quote-unquote Tartaria and that whole different empire and all the different tribes that are sometimes go by Tartaria, sometimes by other names, and I talk about this in my books as well. These are the lost tribes from the North Pole. These are the lost tribes from Atlantis and from the Garden of Eden, who were kicked out or forced out because of cataclysmic events, and they were forced to become nomadic and wander about. So oftentimes they lived for a very long time. Oftentimes they were much larger or gigantic even. Oftentimes they were said to bring with them strange technology and advanced knowledge. They come down into this post-apocalyptic world, come down from the north, that is, and from the high places. Uncommon True Shaman. Hey, what's up, dude? Hold on. Uncommon, let me see what you said. He says, wow, it sure doesn't seem like 30. Jay keeps it so exciting and entertaining. I learned so much. A presentation a day makes the good vibes stay. Thank you for your hard work. Oh, that was very kind. I liked reading that. Thank you. All right, let me jump back in the chat. Michael Nicholson's in the chat, says, JayDreamerZ, how did squids and other soft tissue creatures become petrified? Oh my God, that's such a good question. How do jellyfish become petrified? Oh my God, we're gonna do a whole episode on petrification in the ancient world. I mean, we've done it many times before. I like to focus on certain types of petrification, like humans being petrified is pretty awesome to me. Girolamo Sagato's work. But yeah, jellyfish, whole schools of fish, all the different examples of fish in the middle of eating another fish, and they all just happen to be petrified in different parts of the world all at the same time. I will tell you that those thunderbolts of the god come down into this world, and when they zap these muddy, nasty waters, because everything is going to be all mixed up, right? Even all the ocean water, lake water, all of it, it'll become very muddy, all right? It'll become very full of pollutants and debris and stuff like that, right? So anyways, the thunderbolts of the god hit your local pond that's just full of, you know, mud and water and all this stuff from all the shaking, right? And basically it takes out all the water and it petrifies all the rest of it, or calcifies it, or densifies it. I don't know the correct word at this moment in time, but basically it turns the water into rock, or it removes the water, leaving the minerals and whatnot behind, and they all connect to one another, and the bonds are changed. And that's why you see all these fish. The fish are not, they try to say, oh, well, there was a flood of mud that just rolled over these fish, and the fish in the middle of eating another fish. There's so many good examples of strange petrification. Don't look up basic petrification. Look up strange petrification, okay? Things frozen in weird positions in the middle of eating other things, right? This is something that happened fast, quickly. I guarantee you if a fish is in the middle of eating another fish, one, you're not gonna have hundreds of examples of that. You might have like one or two, possibly, I don't know. But it's going to spit it out, right? It's going to be wriggling around, fighting for its life or whatever. It's these things froze instantly. That's a good question about that. Let's see. Let me jump back in here. Alex Velinov says, Jay, are we going to have mud floods in the coming fire apocalypse? Yes, we will. Does it happen every cycle? Yes, it does. One cycle's worse, being that one cycle is by water. One cycle is the flood. But I believe that we'll be safe from a worldwide flood once more. Actually, I believe the oceans are going to be removed. The seas will be no more. The ocean will be gone because of that increased buoyancy and decreased density and whatnot. And all the wind that's blowing around, the water is just going to lift straight up. Okay, it'll be huge, gigantic waves just rising up into the sky. So yeah, Let's see. But there will still be water rising up from within the earth. Remember, the inner earth is depressurizing. That means it's allowing things to come up. Water. That's why the water comes up. Water's coming up. Gases are coming up. So that water rises to the surface. So there's a danger of getting sucked up into the sky and eaten by Kronos in the great rupture, we'll say. And there's also a danger of sinking down into the earth, which is what the legends say happened to the Titans, massive, gigantic humanoids that once walked this world. They had no safe place, except for like huge cave entrances and stuff where they, some of them may have hunkered down in to stay safe and not because they're on bedrock. That's the other thing too, right? With this whole mud flood thing, it's going to happen again. And those of you who live on bedrock stand a much better chance of not getting sucked into the quicksand, or getting sucked up into, through the chimney of our world. Gavin Carter's in the chat, says, what type of frequency do you think it takes to shake the whole world? Not much, really. I don't think it takes much of a frequency. I don't know specifically like what the frequency would be. I just know it's vibration and shaking because of the pressure release, basically. Let's see. All right, hold on. I'm just going through the chat. Let's see. Tiernan Spate says, Jay, do you think the angels are plasma form? Yes, I do. I've done a couple of videos about the cherubim, and what are known as like the thrones, the different choirs of angels and stuff, and relating those to transient luminous events, specifically plasmoids, and sprites and blue jets and things like that. So yeah, most of the time I equate them to plasma. But like I said, it's a telephone game of time. It's a telephone game of history where it's been cartoonified and passed down and changed and changed. Sometimes there were actual giant real physical beings from other places, and those were also called angels sometimes, or El, or mighty ones, or whatever. All right, checking back into the chat. We're talking about the mud floods, okay, which do happen on occasion. So it would behoove you, it'd be valuable to you to learn what has happened in the past so that when it comes back around, you can be better prepared. Okay? Alex Velinov says, Jay, why does the Himalayan salt mines look like a huge pieces of meat? I also saw some beach rocks that were the same patterns as meat. I don't know, but I do know that biological petrification is a fact. For me personally, I'm convinced. I've studied it enough. I've seen enough examples. I've done my boots on the ground work in different places here in the United States and, around the world. So yes, I'm convinced. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah. Biological material can and is able to be petrified almost instantaneously. The Bikini Truther says, Jay, is there bedrock in Nevada? I don't know. I'd have to look that up for you. There's websites that you can check out to look up your local bedrock. They're just mapping of your local geography and whatnot. But pretty much every state in the United States has a map of your local bedrock. It's really easy to look up. Those people that have purchased Plasma Apocalypse consultations through my website, that's one of the services that I offer is I actually sit down with them. I pull up their address. We look at their local area. We go over the pros and the cons. I talk to them about how close the nearest bedrock is, what type of land they live on and stuff. So you can do that yourself too. It's very helpful and a useful, valuable tool. Beat Down Babylon says, JayDreamerZ, let's see. I've done astrophotography forever. These plasma balls are exactly how it looks if you zoom in on a star. Yes. No, I totally agree. Because, those stars are little points of focus. They're not actual stars. My cosmology is different, okay? I believe in luminaries. Okay, I believe in luminaries. I believe in Mount Meru. I possibly might believe in actual floating lands that are between here and the dome. Or a floating land that's right above Meru, possibly. Something I'm looking into. And then I believe in the apex dome, which is the actual thing that causes the sun and the moon up there in the heavens. So yeah, I totally agree. But plasma balls will resurface. So this is during these times, like 1800s, the Dark Ages and stuff, you'll start to see certain trends abound, like ghost stories, right? And certain traditions being started because people had to learn to live not just in the mud, but in an atmosphere that's electrically amplified. As a matter of fact, during this exact same time frame as what you see depicted here in this little picture behind me, France was undergoing a brand new fashion trend. Lightning rod fashion. They put lightning rods on their umbrellas. They put lightning, or parasols. They put lightning rods on their freaking hats. You know what I mean? Like I got a whole video about lightning rod fashion in my Plasma Apocalypse playlist. Shalom, what's up, Miriam Ya? Good to see you. Robin Bird says, Jay, have you heard about the Missouri earthquake that had liquefaction during it about 100 years ago? I have heard about that, yes. So anytime you have earthquakes, there's a strong possibility for liquefaction. But that's the simplicity of the mud floods, okay? It's the simplicity that the water rises up, the heavy objects sink, and those things that are sunk down tend to float up to the surface or rise up to the surface. For example, coffins. When this happens, all the coffins, like you think the dead are just buried and stuck in the ground? They're not, especially if you put them in a big underwater boat that's sealed up and it's got a bunch of air inside of it. Those bad boys, those coffins are going to rise right up, doink, and the dead are going to open the doors and they're going to walk around. I promise you that. All right, let's see. Hold up. Let me just check the chat here. I'm looking for @JayDreamerZ if anybody has any questions about the mud floods or any theories or whatever you want to share. Kyle Lewis, I happen to see your comment, says this channel is awesome. I've been watching like crazy lately. Such interesting ideas. I'm glad that you like it. I'm a perfectionist, so I would like to rearrange my playlists sometime, but that requires a lot of work, basically. I have to redo the whole playlist thing. But I'm glad that you're enjoying yourself. Let's see. Oh, the Bikini Truther said I bought both books. That'll be my next purchase. Oh, sweet. Right on. That's cool. I'm actually going to the post office tomorrow to mail out Tommy Truthful's package. What's up, Tommy Truthful, if you're watching? He and I are going to get together soon. And 3 other packages of books that people have ordered. One's going to France. One's going here in the States. I can't remember. And some people have also been ordering my merch. Specifically, like people they like the keychains that I'm selling. I'll show you guys in a bit. Beatdown Babylon says, thanks, JayDreamerZ. We have very similar beliefs. You're welcome. Cindy says, JayDreamerZ, have you seen the Ewar Anon series on the mud floods? And do you think he was spot on? I believe I have. I think I'm subscribed to Ewar Anon, but I don't remember his exact theory. So I don't actually remember like what his theory of the mud floods are. I just told you mine. Like that's my theory. That's what I think causes it. And it seems reasonable to me too. Kyle, what's up? Kyle, thanks a lot in the chat for your little donation. That was very kind of you, Kyle. Hold on, let me put your comment up there. How do I do that? Where's Kyle? There he is. There we go. Hey, Tony Hood just subscribed. Well, we got action. We got lots of action. Tony Hood, high five. Kyle, high five. Who else? I don't know who that was. All right. All right, sweet. Let me jump back into the chat. Let me think about... Oh, this is also depicted in fiction, too. So, for example, A Boy and His Dog. Remember that movie? It's an apocalyptic movie where everything's covered in mud. Even Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail, that's around post-apocalyptic times, okay? Because it's Dark Ages, same exact time. And they have the people just playing in the mud. You know, just knee deep in mud. Like King Arthur, you know, with the coconuts, he goes right past them. A Boy and His Dog. The people go around, it's just like a desert wasteland forever. But the survivors, they start digging holes in random places because they find houses. And some people fall down into the houses and stuff. Like the whole city of Arizona, I think it was in the movie A Boy and His Dog, the whole city is buried under mud or dry mud, which is, you know, now dirt, basically. This is also portrayed in Westworld, right? So if you've seen Westworld, you saw that they had an entire town, an entire city that was just covered up in dirt, in mud. And then they ended up uncovering it as the series went on. So let's see, mud floods. Let me think about anything else. Now, there's also going to be, okay, I just want to throw in some Phantazoid action, okay? Phantazoids are otherworldly creatures that are monstrous to us because they are not a part of our mesocosm. They come from the world beneath us and the world or the fractal verse beyond us, okay? So these otherworldly creatures include worms. Our worms in this world are going to grow in size, as will arthropods and many insects and animals and humans. Gigantism returns when this happens, okay? One thing you're going to need to be careful for is giant worms. I'm not even lying, okay? I'm getting a little off topic right now because I do like talking about these other subjects, especially phantazoids. But if I'm correct and gigantism returns to this world, there's going to be nasty, huge kinds of bugs and worms and all. Like, these are going to be sandworms, basically. They start off as mud worms, right? In this nasty, muddy mess, murky mess. But it will eventually start drying, and then those worms that have the ability to actually, move about in dirt and soil and stuff, like, they'll still be gigantic, and then that gives you movies like Tremors and stuff. Michael Nicholson is in the chat. She says, JayDreamerZ, I'm pretty new, and I would like to hear your take on the spiritual side of what's happening. What the heck is going on around here? It's very simple. The spiritual side of what's happening is also the energetic side of what's happening. And energetically speaking, the earth is going into fluctuation, okay? We don't have a steady circuit, electromagnetically speaking, in this world. That circuit is being disturbed, okay? The frequency of this world is being disturbed, and therefore the energy, and therefore the spirits that reside within this world that also resonate with the frequency of the world, they're being disturbed. They're going into flux. It's an energetic or a spiritual fluctuation, which is why we see history just sort of branching off in every direction at this particular point in time, okay? But that's why. It's good versus evil. It's positive and negative. I think the middle path is always the best, no matter what. I don't tend to side with the good and the bad or whatever, or the bad. But yeah, I think that's what's happening right now. And that's going to lead to mass psychosis. I'm telling you, plasma possession the world across. You're already seeing it in the news. Tommy, earlier I was talking to Tommy, and he was telling me about the Trump thing with the Tesla car, and it blew up, and somebody's running people over on the streets, and that's nothing compared to what's right around the corner. You're just seeing the beginning of all the wackos that are starting to show their faces. Okay, some of those wackos are developing followings and forming cults and stuff. But anyways, yeah, you're just seeing the beginnings, and you'll notice that too. That's a trend that happens right around this time as well. Is you see a change in the people, right? A change in how they act, and they're changing their moral standards and stuff too. But anyways, if I see anything in the chat, I'll shout you out. Risha G says, JayDreamerZ, this is one of my favorite subjects. Always appreciate your fascinating and mind-blowing content. You're very welcome. I appreciate it. And it's not even mine. Like, there's nobody on YouTube that has like completely original ideas or whatever. But we do have completely original perspectives, and I love sharing mine. And I bask in the fact that my perspectives are innovative and unique, and they're mine. And this is what I like to do. I like to share those perspectives with all of you. Did you notice I got the color better? I'm not turning all red now. Check that out. I'm pretty happy about that. All right. Let's see. Oh, Red Storm says, this is an interesting theory. Tell me more. Ask a question, and I'll be happy to tell you more. I'm much better at going on and, in length and at detail when people actually ask and, provoke me like with a question or something. I'm not really good because there's so much for me to think about. I don't know what direction to go in, and sometimes I just go quiet. John Bishop says, what do you think about Dune Prophecy TV show? Oh, I don't really watch TV. I'll watch movies. I tried watching Dune. I'm probably not even going to watch. The day will come that I'll be so bored that I'll watch Dune Part 2. I tried to watch Dune Part 1. Oh my God. And by the way, I just want to tell you this too. That whole Arrakis, the whole planet, that's this planet. After the oceans are removed. After the world becomes a muddy, swampy mess and then dries out. Okay? This world is going to turn into Mars. Okay? Mars is code for what our world is going to become. Which is no ocean. Red from oxidation all over the place. Mud all over the place. People, shaping clay and forming clay and letting it harden and all that stuff. It's going to be Mars, basically. And, lots of sand dunes and stuff down there where the ocean bottoms once were. Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob. Realize, says JayDreamerZ, do you think that we're due for a plasma apocalypse? Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, so vehemently, passionately, adamantly, I do believe that we are overdue for an apocalypse. And I believe that that is the great secret of the Freemasons and Illuminati and whatnot. Like, they understand the reset that this world goes through. They understand things like the reality behind the fountain of youth and how to extend their lives, or where to go on Earth in order to extend their lives and allow for cellular regeneration and things. But yes, definitely. Let's see, just checking out the chat. Rachel Moyer, nice beanie. Rachel says, Jay, can you show some any pictures you may have collected to substantiate the mud flood? Well, sure, yes I do. Let me see, why not? I'll share just a couple, just as examples. I mean, there's like thousands on the internet. I will also balance that out by saying there's thousands of forgeries now, thanks to AI. You know, I mean, I made this, but I'm using it for good reason, okay? I'm using this as a visual example, and I'm telling you that's not a real picture right there, okay? But yeah, I'll totally show you some real pictures. I just kind of figured that most people that are probably tuning in have already seen like so many examples. But yeah, I'm happy to share a couple. Let me just pull up my little mud floods. That works. Yeah, I don't really like that one actually. Hold on. Liquefaction, I think it's under. I gotta go to my files. All right, let's see. Liquefaction. See, now I'm like put on the spot, so I've got mind fog. Hold on, I'll find it. Liquefaction. Ah, there we go. Okay, so here's just like a couple of examples. For example, that was so redundant. I get nervous. You gotta forgive me. All right, hold on. I'm trying to put it on the screen. Hey, Kimma just totally donated a brand new membership to Tony Peterson in the chat. That was kind. Thank you, Kimma. Congratulations, Tony. All right, let me get this picture put up here. Let's see. Let's do... Sorry, it's a process. There we go. All right, cool. So, for example, I believe this is from Belbeck. Gigantic stones. I don't know how... I'm not going to make it bigger or anything, but I'm just going to show you a couple examples. So, you can clearly see that the stone, like, goes into the earth right over here. You see what I'm saying? That's why these gigantic megaliths oftentimes like fell down, or they were left in their pits or whatever. They're huge, they're dense, they're gigantic, and they are easy to just sink down into the earth. Here's a really good example of it. Basically, you got like a person sitting right there in the middle. Right there in the middle is a little tiny guy. So you can see the earth is just straight across, but this huge stone brick sank down into the earth. Okay, and you can see it looks like they've excavated in the background and stuff. Here's a modern example of liquefaction at work, you know, when it happens, you know, in the modern world. So this truck basically is just sunk down into the debris and the mud and the muck. You see this all the time. Really good example is probably Easter Island. Hold on, let me see if I can bring up my little Easter Island deal. Well, there's another one from, I think, Belbeck. Those huge megaliths. That's how they were able to carry those megaliths, too. So everything weighed a lot less. It was a lot less dense. Things became heavier the further forward in time we go. Okay? Things start off lightweight. Okay? The pressure's off. That's how it should be after the apocalypse. People should get a break. All right? That's just me. That's my opinion. But that's also, you know, what it seems has already happened and occurred. You go through the apocalypse, you make it, you survive to the end, you get rewards, you get gifts, you get a break, you get a vacation, okay? That's kind of how I see that. Anyways, this sank into the mud. All these things, like you see, you know, the moai, you know how they go all the way down? That's because they sank, okay? They didn't build them and then bury them up to their necks in dirt. They didn't, you know, all these ones that are like halfway toppled over and stuff, these were all standing straight up and sank down into the earth. So these are just some different examples. You know, you asked, so I just wanted to share what little I have prepared. All right, so let me get rid of that. Boom. All right, let me jump back into the chat. We got Benjamin Mayer. who says, Jay, be the man. Plasma-minded kind. Well, thank you. Let's see. What else we got? Oh, hold on. We got Donnie Danko. Oh, he's talking to somebody else. We got HT5SS. JayDreamerZ, do you think the Antichrist is here? No, but he's on the... I say he, but it's not really a he. It's not a she either. But I think the Antichrist is on the way. Okay, I mean, the Antichrist is... I guess you could say it's here. I think it's the sun, okay? Just in short. We can get off topic now. It's totally fine. I feel like I've, made my theory about the mud floods and how they happen. And what happens during the mud floods and afterwards and stuff. Pretty clear. Okay, just a simple explanation of it. So you can ask me about the Antichrist if you want to. Basically, I think it's the sun. The sun's going to turn blue and burn the earth as it makes its way to the throne of the earth, which is Mount Meru. And then it'll be replaced with a different kind of light that erupts up from Mount Meru. Charlie, what's up, Charlie? Says, salutes, Jay. Enjoying the build tonight. We're doing blood orange old fashions. Cheers, Jay. Cheers, mates. Well, hey, Charlie, enjoy the drinks. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your donation, too. I appreciate all you guys' support, You guys keep my lights turned on and heat in the wintertime. Oh, my God. I really love having heat and a warm house. So I don't take any of it for granted. Thank you so much for adding to my life. Let's see who else we got in here. Just checking the chat. If things die down, we'll wrap things up. Beat Down Babylon says, JayDreamerZ, what are my thoughts on the planets being actual living demigods that had literal wars in space and fell to Earth, creating the land? That's a good question. Instead, I'll just tell you what my view on the planets are. Now, I believe there's truth to all of what you just said. I don't believe in all of it, how you said it, or literally, or whatever. But I believe there's truth to that. So, for example, I believe the planets are luminaries. There are projections up in the heavens, and there are points of focus up in the heavens. Okay, in the form of planets and the moon for the projections, and stars and the sun as far as points of focus. And they're created by the light that passes through the dome, or the firmament itself. And I do also believe that whenever the firmament opens up, it lets all that plasma that is just outside of the firmament, aka the plasma sphere that envelops our planet according to the academic model, that plasma comes in. And like I said, it goes to war with, not during this cycle. Well, let me tell you what to expect. So at the end of this cycle, survivors and people who are alive at that time, they will see titans in the form of terrestrial ionized columns and pillars, sky pillars of light, of ionized gas or plasma, shoot straight up and appear to just touch the firmament itself. Those are the earthly titans, one form of them. There's also physical gigantic humans and stuff, but these are not, okay? These are just personified as titans. And then you have the other gods that come down, that split off into different sections and stuff. That's the cosmic plasma that comes down. It appears that they go to war with one another. Every other cycle, the other one wins, okay? This cycle, the terrestrial beams, the pillars, those titans, they lost. So they were banished. They were retracted down into the earth to recharge because they're just energy. It's electromagnetics. It's plasma. So the depressurization is over. The energy is absorbed by the earth as the electromagnetic current reverses and goes inwards. And the only thing left over are all of those snakes, all of those serpents, wonderful plasma glowing worms and dragons and stuff. And people see those as being victorious. And the other ones are dead. They were pulled down into Tartarus or the underworld. But then the next cycle, they'll rise up. They'll fight those same ones during the opening of the firmament. And then when the electromagnetic dome goes back up, it cuts off all of that cosmic plasma. But those terrestrial beams of light remain for an entire age, an age of light. Or what the devil in this world calls the Dark Ages. All right, sweet. Let's see. What else we got? We got Beat Down Babylon says, awesome answer. That's how I interpret it too. What is it called? Enuma Elish. Not sure what you're asking about the Enuma Elish. Gasper Canoni, what's up? Good to see you. Good vibes. Michael Nicholson says, JayDreamerZ, I would like to hear your view on symbolism in general and which you are most drawn to. I don't do good with generalities. I don't do good with like vagueness and general, just speaking in general, you know what I mean? It also kind of makes me feel, I know you're not trying to, but it makes me feel like a puppet when people are just like, talk about this or whatever. I don't like it being left open for me to just choose because I'd rather just go study it than talk about it like on the internet. But if it's a specific question or a specific topic, feel free, pick my brain, boom, and I'll go into detail as I have. Let's see. You're super welcome, and it's nice to meet you. Kimberly F. Jay does attract loving, intelligent people in his chats. Oh, that's right. You guys are awesome. The Good Vibe Tribe. All right, cool. Well, I think that's about it. We're going to come back to revisit the mud floods. All right. There's so many aspects to all of this. Oftentimes, I don't even know what to talk about. Like, there's so many different things, and I don't want to throw everyone off. Like, I worry about my viewers. I don't want to confuse you guys. I don't want to, like, throw people off. You know, that's why I try to do segments or whatever. And I'm going to start a different schedule here pretty soon. You may have noticed we didn't do Truth and Movies this Sunday. My personal life is, you know, slightly changing, and I have to rearrange some stuff in my personal life. And I'm going to try to do videos all throughout the week. Maybe not on Sundays. I think I'm going to take Sundays off from now on. So we might do Truth and Movie Mondays, or I don't know. But anyways. Oh, let me share one more thing before I go. So check this out. All right, let's take that down. And then we will... Sharon! Hey, Sharon just... Oh, she says Granny Love. Sharon just donated $20. Thank you. That definitely helps out. Food, electric bills, supplies, you know, to support myself by selling merch and books and stuff like that. Thank you so much. Eddie Knows says Rome was excavated in the 1700s. Oh, let me show you what I wanted to share with you here. Is it that? No. Is it this? Yes, it is. All right, cool. So this is my my YouTube channel that you're on right now. And if you go over to the top up here, there's a section that says store. I have changed this. I used to have third-party merch on there that I made, and I got like, you know, $1 for every $10, and it was all overpriced and stuff. This is my own personal store. Who was that? Who was that just joined as a member? Oh, Sharon says peace. All right, so this is my own personal store right here. All right, so my books, I've made it easy for you. You don't even have to go to my website if you don't want to. You can order my books on Amazon still, but it'll just be a vanilla plain book. You know what I mean? If you order them from here, from my merch shelf on YouTube or from my website, you will get a lot of extras. So let's see, like for example, I don't know. There's lots of different extras that you'll get. First and foremost, you'll get an autograph. There's an area on there where you can make a dedication if you want to. I've got like customized bookmarks that I include. They're JayDreamerZ bookmarks. Business cards that are customized, like this one right here is just an example I had laying around. Mini posters. I love the mini posters. Many of you guys are going to get this. You're going to open it, you know, here in the next week, because I'm sending them out. Also, there's like all this different kinds of merch down here. Lucky JayDreamerZ coin, like a little poker chip coin, right here behind me. Kind of hard to see, but it's got the jelly on one side, and it's got Nemo, my robot, in the credits on the other side. You can check out my book. Like I've got lots of different pictures. So if you click on that, it'll take you to my actual website where you can order. And for example, you can see like a video. This is me showing you the book at my house, just kind of flipping through it and just, you know, showing it off or whatever. These are mini posters you can get. These are bookmarks. Some pictures are a little too big. I got to fix that up. That's a bookmark. That's a bookmark. That's a business card. This is just a fun video to watch, basically. You can preview the chapters in my books as well on my website. You can check out all the different chapters that I have. I don't know if you guys can see that. But yeah, all the different content and all the chapters and stuff. And then it tells you what you get with your purchase right down here below. Okay, you get a lot of different things. And you get like a synopsis of my books and all kinds of stuff. So if you want to, check that out. It does help to support me, and it's hopefully of value to you. My first book is Ancient Oblivion, The Plasma Apocalypse. My second book is Ancient Oblivion, Return to Hyperborea. One sec. The first book is the Cliff's Notes on all the different things you can expect to happen, including omens leading up to what happens during and after the apocalypse itself, the plasma apocalypse, as I research it. The second book is more of the good news. It talks about where to go to after the plasma apocalypse, those places where you will live for hundreds of years, a very, very long time. I explain scientifically and break that down how that happens. I also talk about mutants that will rise during those times, genetic mutations, entire tribes of them, the different areas, anode and cathode mountains, the origin of piracy. There's all kinds of stuff in there. The first cities and whatnot. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's really all I wanted to share. So shout out to my website. Boom. High five to me. I'm very proud of my website. There's a 24-hour free cram session if you want. You can just sign up and, you know, it'll give you a free 24 hours to check it out. And if you order stuff from my website, some of those packages actually include, I email people coupons for like months off of my website, like free membership to my website. So I figured, you know, that's the least I can do since they're buying my books and stuff, is hook them up with, you know, a free month or two on my website. So feel free to check that out. It's under books and merch right here. Okay. You can say what's up to the other members. If you go to, not membership, but it's actually under main menu. There's a members wall. You can check out all the other members. You can make your own profile, introduce yourself, post pictures, post videos, start discussions at the members wall, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for joining me today on our discussion about the mud flood. I appreciate it. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Forcing me to stay. to